Hi guys and welcome to Pheas Airsoft, where today we're going to look at how to change a motor in an AK. So I just want to make a note on safety. Whether I'm disassembling, unboxing, chronoing, whatever it is I'm doing, I always make sure I'm in a completely safe environment. So that means most of my videos I'm always wearing eye protection just to make sure that my eyesight stays safe. Before I do that, I always make sure that there's no ammunition in any of the mags or in the gun itself. I make sure that the mags are unloaded and unwound to make sure that nothing can happen with that. Obviously, if I'm chronoing, then I've absolutely definitely got my eye protection on to protect myself. I even make sure that my batteries are removed and out of the way so that I know I'm in a safe environment. I also make sure that there's nobody else around as well either, so I'm always in a safest possible environment. If you are working with airsoft stuff, please make sure you do the same. Hi guys and welcome back. If you do enjoy my content today, please do like and subscribe because you'll be really helping me out. On a point of safety, just to note, if you are doing this, make sure you got the appropriate tools, make sure you got your eye protection on, and make sure that everything is unloaded and that you're in a safe environment. I've made sure all of those, there's nobody around me, completely safe environment, so I know I'm safe to work on this. So I've got my CM028 here, and as part of the review of the Kublai short shaft high speed motor, I'm changing the motor on here. So the first thing we've done is the pistol grip was on. Now all AK variants come in the same style that the pistol grip sits on, and there is a screw in the bottom. Usually it's a Phillips head, so you undo the Phillips head, take those out and take those out of the way. Next thing is the motor contacts. The motor wires will come down, usually in this little runner here. This is part of the framework, round and onto the motor contacts here and here. And you usually find that the red wire is at the back, usually. Make sure if you are changing your motor, you look for which way round the motor is orientated, because that's important that you keep it the same. Next thing you're going to do is, like we do with the normal, as part of the AK disassembly process, the two screws here, which I've put over here, come out, and those again were just two Phillips heads, which they normally are, but they could be, I've seen Torx used a lot as well. So I'm going to lift the motor out, and on the end cap here there should be some sort of screwing system. So on this one there was two little Phillips head screws, so I've undone them, and I can now start to pry this open, and we call it, this is referred to as the motor cage. So I should be able to now start prying this open. Now what I'm going to say is there is a grub screw in here which should stay in there purely because the threading is part of one side of the cage. There should also be, like we get in an M4, a little metal disc inside of here, so we're going to be careful to not lose that. So I've just brought in a little flat head just to help me start separating it out, because there's a lot of thread lock on there, which makes me think that they're sort of semi-gluing it together with that. Okay. There we go. So just put that in there just to get it separate, starting to separate. Often with some other brands it will easily just pull apart. So as you can see, there was a lot of red gunk around there. So I've pulled what is the back part of the cage off. Now you can see in there is the little metal disc that needs to stay in there because that helps to adjust the motor, and the spring that's part of the adjustment system is compressed in there as well. So I'm just going to slowly, oh, there goes the spring, lift that out of there. Now at the minute I'm noticing here that the front of the cage was where what would be the black terminal was. So I've taken that out and I lift the little metal plate off. So I'm now going to get my new motor. Obviously red went to the back, what is the black goes to the front. So I'm going to put the little plate back in place, and I'm going to push that back into there. I'm then going to compress the spring down underneath that framework there and sit it in. Now this probably will need some adjustment, which I'll show you in a second. I'm going to bring the rest of the cage back in. Looking at the orientation, there we go, look. So you can see at the bottom here we've got two little hooks. So we're just going to hook those on. Come on, Pheas, get it sorted, lad. There we go. And it hooks round, so the spring is still compressed under both sides. It's all back together again, and I'm going to put the two little screws back in to secure it all back together. So I'll just screw that in. what happens when you're adjusting a motor is you can move the motor based on the spring up and down, further into the gearbox and further out of the gearbox. And what that does is helps to find an optimal position for it to engage with the gear set. If it's too screechy and you've been going in, maybe you've gone too far in, and if you keep going too far in, it will eventually lock the gearbox up. And if you come too far out, it'll get screechy again because you're not making quite enough contact, so it'll obviously start scratching the metal together and things. So you're looking for a nice bit where this little cog here, the pinion gear, sits nicely with the first gear in the gearbox and sits and meshes with it nicely. And you'll kind of find like a sweet spot of sound where there's no scratchiness and it turns over nicely. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that back in there, and I'm going to screw these two back in. On this one, they are both identical length screws, so it doesn't matter which way around I put them in. Now they might need a little bit of wiggling around, just because the motor cage can move about a little bit. So tighten those down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the cable back into this back part of the cage here, just to keep it nice and neat out of the way of the pistol grip. I'm going to put the red connector back on the red terminal, like that, and I'll bring the black over and do the same with the black. Now obviously the terminal is in a slightly different position on this one, so I'm just going to have to manipulate it a little bit just to get it in there. Can I go that way? No, I think I'm best off that way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test fire it in a second, but without the pistol grip on, purely because if I actually know, we'll put the pistol grip on, I think. I'm going to come back in a second once I've done this, because you don't want to see me messing about with this for ages. So I discovered the best way to do this is to put it on there first. So disconnect both wires, pull the wiring out of the track, connect it on first, and then feed it round and in to the track, connecting the red wire as you go back. So we're now connected up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back on, the pistol grip. I'm not going to screw it down because it gives us access to the adjustment hole down there. What I am going to do is I'm going to bring my battery in, and I'm going to listen for the right kind of sound. So here we go for single shot. Actually, that's sounding pretty nice and in the right place. So if I wasn't happy, what I would do is, it is a little grub screw, so I'd need a little Allen key or Torx key. Think like that one, and you just put it down, make sure that you've got purchase in there, and obviously this is a normal screw, so if you're righty-tighty, for those of you lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, if you're going right, we'll push the motor up, going left, we'll bring it back out. So adjust it a quarter turn at the most, just to listen for the sound, and make sure that it's obviously in the right place, and then again, quarter turn again. Don't do more than a quarter turn at a time unless you know that you're a long way out, just because a quarter of a turn gives you a tiny bit of movement, and that might be all that it needs. So I hope that's been helpful to you. Please do like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.